The Prime Minister's crucial three-nation tour, and the Prime Minister packs Australian stadium with Indian diaspora. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese says that he is witnessing more crowd than Springsteen. So from Commonwealth, cricket, curry to democracy and diaspora. But the highlight is Modi fans arriving in what they called Modi Airways. On day one of the big 2,000 rupee note exchange, no panic, no queues outside banks, but some confusion over ID proofs and documents. A BJP leader files a petition against the no ID document requirement for exchanging notes. Support us. Tomorrow it could be you, says one chief minister to another. So now opposition unity over the ordinance issue. Mamata Banerjee says that there is a chance to defeat the BJP before 2024 over the ordinance issue, and that we will support Arvind Kejriwal's Aam Aadmi Party in Rajya Sabha. And now it's BJP versus opposition over the new parliament building. After the Aam Aadmi Party and the TMC, now the Congress is also likely to boycott that parliament inauguration. The Prime Minister will be inaugurating the new parliament this Sunday. Our top focus is the Prime Minister's crucial three-nation tour. He was in Australia, he is in Australia, and about 170 Indian origin people took a chartered flight from Melbourne to Sydney to attend the Prime Minister's event. In fact, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said that the overwhelming crowd was more than Springsteen, and there were several other surprises there, a spectacle of Indian culture, and the highlight really was Modi supporters coming in Modi Airways.
A rockstar welcome. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Australian counterpart Anthony Albanese walked into the Kudos Bank Arena hand in hand, where a euphoric crowd of 20,000 gave them a rousing welcome.
For those who are able, please be standing for the Australian.
A reception described by Albanese as bigger than even what Bruce Springsteen got.
I get to speak to some pretty big crowds as Prime Minister. I said to my friend the Prime Minister before, the last time I saw someone on the stage here was Bruce Springsteen, and he didn't get the welcome that Prime Minister Modi has got.
Like one big fat Indian wedding here today, because you're seeing people in their best clothes, their best dress, come here to see what the Prime Minister has to say and to share in the pomp and show that's happening out there. So while you said it's filling up, I would say it's actually filled up and then also bursting at the seams. There are people coming in and saying, I just want a ticket, and it's like a movie that is going house tour, and people are actually willing to buy tickets in black as well outside. That was the interesting thing.
Namaste, Australia.
Addressing the diaspora, Prime Minister Modi extolled the commonalities between Australia and India.
साथियों, एक समय था जब कहा जाता था कि भारत ऑस्ट्रेलिया के संबंधों को 3C डिफाइन करते हैं: कॉमनवेल्थ, क्रिकेट और करी। इसके बाद कहा गया कि भारत ऑस्ट्रेलिया के संबंध 3D पर आधारित है: डेमोक्रेसी, डायस्पोरा और दोस्ती। वैसे मैंने सुना है कि हैरिस पार्क में चटका की चाट, जयपुर स्वीट्स की जलेबी, उसका तो कोई जवाब ही नहीं है।
The enthusiasm was not confined only to the stadium. Special buses were organized from Canberra and Melbourne. Performers were flown in from different parts of the country. But the highlight of the day was Modi Airways, flown by Qantas, ferrying some ardent Modi fans to Sydney. Before this grand event, PM Modi had a very busy morning meeting prominent personalities, from a celebrated chef to a popular singer to a Nobel laureate. Tomorrow, on the final day of his three-nation tour, Prime Minister Modi will be holding bilateral talks with PM Albanese and wrapping his visit after a brief meeting with the leader of opposition there. With Kartik Mohandas in Sydney, Megha Prasad for NDTV.
So a crucial moment, a crucial diplomatic moment for India there. But the other big headline today was the 2,000 rupee note exchange that began, and today was day one. So of course, small queues outside banks, no chaos, but there was some confusion over ID proofs and forms that need to be required for the exchange of 2,000 rupee notes. So remember, earlier the RBI had set certain ground rules, but because there are policies and regulations of private banks at play as well, there is no real consistency between the policy of different banks. So now it is advisable to carry your ID proofs as well when you go to exchange your 2,000 rupee currency notes, and of course you have time till the 30th of September to exchange your notes, to deposit your notes, so there's really no need to panic. But the big highlight really was that today, as the 2,000 rupee note exchange began, it was nowhere close to what happened in 2016, a spectacle that all of us remember, and many feared as well after the announcement of the withdrawal of 2,000 rupee notes, though the RBI has said that it will continue to remain legal tender even after the 30th of September. And the other big political story, the ordinance, the centre's ordinance has really become the rallying point for opposition unity. So, of course, Nitish Kumar was in Delhi. He met Mr. Kharge and Mr. Kejriwal over the ordinance issue. But Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal, Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal on Tuesday met Mamata Banerjee. And, of course, he was accompanied by Punjab Chief Minister Bhagwant Mann as well. And ordinance was a key issue because what was the message from one chief minister to the other? That it is us today, it could be you tomorrow. So that was really the resounding message. And another crucial opposition unity meet there really, and the TMC saying that we will support the Aam Aadmi Party in Rajya Sabha over the ordinance issue. But it remains to be seen whether other opposition parties actually come on board as far as the centre's ordinance against the Delhi government in a sense is concerned, given that it comes after the Supreme Court said that elected governments must have rights over services and the transfer and postings of bureaucrats. But this is a huge political issue now, with it becoming a rallying point for opposition unity. So now, as I was mentioning, it remains to be seen whether opposition parties come together. The TMC, of course, has said that it will not be attending the inauguration of the new parliament. So the new parliament really is the new political flashpoint between the BJP and opposition parties. So the TMC said that parliament is not just a new building, it is an establishment with old traditions, values, precedents and rules. It is the foundation of Indian democracy. For the Prime Minister, Sunday's inauguration of the new building is all about I, me, myself. So count us out. That's what the TMC said. The Aam Aadmi Party also has been very vocal about not attending the inauguration of the new Parliament building, which is on Sunday, the 28th of May. And now what we are hearing is that Congress is also mulling over not attending the Parliament inauguration. The Congress is likely to skip the inauguration, the new Parliament building inauguration. Grand events have been planned by the BJP, by the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister will be leading the inauguration of the new Parliament building. Earlier, of course, there was some controversy over the Congress saying that it should be the President and not the Prime Minister leading the inauguration. And moving to the other big story we've been tracking on NDTV, today was the second day of the G20 tourism meet in Srinagar, and green tourism is on the top of the agenda. Remember, this is the first big international meet in Kashmir, and this is happening amid tight security and the valley being all decked up.
Shikara cruises and Kashmiri music for delegates on day 2 of the crucial G20 Tourism Group meet in Srinagar, the first ever such international event in the region. The government says this year, over 2 crore tourists are expected to visit Jammu and Kashmir, an all-time record that will better last year's 1.8 crore tourist footfall record.
फॉरेन इन्वेस्टमेंट्स भारत में आना चाहिए, हर स्टेट में आना चाहिए, और इंक्लूडिंग जो टूरिज्म के दृष्टिकोण से श्रीनगर हो, जम्मू कश्मीर हो, एक स्ट्रैटेजिक इम्पोर्टेंस भी है। अभी मैं बताना चाहता हूँ, इस साल जम्मू कश्मीर का जीडीपी जो है 7% टूरिज्म से आया, इसको 15% ले जाना चाहिए, और आ सकते तो आने वाले दिन में जम्मू कश्मीर का रेवेन्यू में 20% जीडीपी टूरिज्म के द्वारा होना चाहिए।
On day 2 of the G20 meet, the big message from the government: Kashmir is safe, peaceful, and a preferred destination for film shoots.
Seeing is believing, and when foreign foreign delegates are coming here, they are seeing the beautiful golf course, the revamped Dal Lake, the grounds here. Kashmir, of course, everybody knows that it is our neighbor who has been trying to disrupt things in Kashmir.
China has boycotted the G20 meet and opposed holding it in Kashmir. The centre says that China not coming for the meeting is China's loss, not India's.
Symbolism of G20 meeting in Srinagar is very important. This is the first such international event in Kashmir after revocation of Jammu and Kashmir's special constitutional position. And unlike in the past, there is no shutdown call by separatist groups or restrictions on the ground. In Srinagar, Nazir Masoodi for NDTV.
So a strong global message there with that meeting being held in Kashmir. Moving now to business news, a BQ Prime exclusive with Rajiv Jain, the chairman of a global asset management firm, GQG. Here's what he has to say about his investment in several Adani group of companies.
There is a thought, Rajiv, that infrastructure assets per se don't make money. If not the assets themselves, then when they are listed in India, well, history is replete with examples of these companies not having made money. I would love to understand from you, when you think of infrastructure assets and your large investments into the Adani Group, and you have investments elsewhere too. There is ITC, HDFC, there are other names that have come about, and I'll talk about that. But just one question on the infrastructure assets valuing. How do you think about infrastructure in India or general infrastructure asset investing? Because the street seems to have a completely different view, so to say.
Yeah, so the infrastructure investing tends to be a little bit different than your consumer staples, IT service, so on and so forth. The way you get paid is if you're getting, let's say, mid-teen return IRRs, once you've invested in those, over time, the earnings certainty is very, very high, and hence they can sustain high leverage. Now, Adani is kind of unique because they are in a very strong investment phase even now. And what we've seen, for example, in ports, and ports is a very good case study, that after certain years, you will see a hockey stick of earnings come through. India has ridiculous TAM, if I'm going to call that, because you're basically competing with state-owned companies. I mean, look at the state electricity boards. I mean, who wouldn't want to compete against them, right? I would love to compete against them if I could. I mean, talk about the most inefficient players you get in India. But it ain't easy. I mean, we saw the Reliance infrastructure in Mumbai. They couldn't cut it. So these infrastructure assets have a very long tail. The returns are regulated by the government most of the time. After the initial setup, you get very steady return. So to grow, you have to keep investing more capital. So they're always free cash flow negative. But you get very high returns, right, on a long-term basis. So you get 20, 25-year visibility, which is why we feel that most of the Adani infrastructure companies that invested, we're actually not betting on, we're not taking any economic cyclicality risk also in these cases, which you are in other cases because, they will earn almost irrespective of what happens to the economy in a certain way.
In which case, Rajiv, you would be happy if a large portion of the street is valuing infrastructure in the way that it does and talks about the high debt levels, which in some cases is justified as well. But in the ones that you made an investment, you would be happy that the street thinks of them that way, because you can get them at a good clip, at a price that you want, because you are really investing into them or thinking about them from that long-term mindset, which the street might not be thinking about them.
If you look at the laundry list of failures infrastructure side, because you have to make sure you have access to capital, long-term stable capital, right? I mean, in India, it's hard to get long-term sort of stable access to stable capital. I mean, that's an issue. But the thrust of the government has made a big difference in making this possible.
You can catch the full interview at 10:30 a.m. on Wednesday on the NDTV network and also on ndtv.com. Moving now, May 28th will be observed as Menstrual Hygiene Day. But why do we need to talk about menstrual hygiene? Because a lack of awareness, persisting taboos and stigma, poor sanitation, infrastructure and limited access to hygienic menstrual products are causing poor menstrual hygiene, impacting the education, health and overall social status of girls and women around the world. But 15-year-old Ananya Malde is working to change that. Here's a report.
Ananya Malde is on a mission to destigmatize menstruation and eliminate age-old taboos that continue to surround it. Ananya founded Project Pragati in 2020, a groundbreaking initiative that works towards stopping girls in rural Gujarat from dropping out of school because of menstruation. Project Pragati was inspired by a young girl named Saraswati when Ananya met her in Kutch.
Saraswati spoke to me about what happens within her home when she gets her period, and what I heard was heartbreaking. She has to remain isolated, she cannot enter the kitchen or the temple, she cannot even speak to her parents while she's on her period. And this sparked something in me. And after more and more research, I found out that the problem is more acute in terms of school dropouts. And in fact, every single year in India, 23 million girls drop out of school when they get their period.
Traveling in the deep interiors, meeting adolescent girls in rural areas of Gujarat, Ananya has been raising funds to ensure these girls don't have to drop out of schools anymore by providing them with sanitary napkins and installing incinerators at schools. Part of the 1M 1B Future Leader program herself, Ananya worked with their NGO partners to speak with about 100 school-going girls and interact with the sarpanches of 3 villages. The lack of awareness, even amongst the parents, came as a shock to her.
Dropping out of school now, it has implications for so many future generations, because if a woman drops out of school now, then even 20 years from now, when she has children, she will just be forced to stay home and she cannot go and work, and that will continue to establish the patriarchal society in India.
Convincing school principals was a huge challenge, but in the end, she designed a comprehensive menstrual hygiene curriculum for school children.
Through my awareness sessions, I've educated over 1,020 women and girls so far. These girls, they have never even, gotten any kind of talk on periods before. They don't know what it is at all. They just know that, it's this process that happens once a month. They also don't know what sanitary pads are. A lot of them just use, things like rags and cloth.
Ananya has already distributed over 50,000 sanitary pads and installed incinerators in 2 schools, 1 each in Kutch and Vadodara. And she's not about to stop anytime soon. It will be thanks to young change makers like her that 23 million girls can realize their dreams and not have to drop out of school just because they didn't know what a period was.
Welcome back. Let's now get you an NDTV special report. India's longest sea bridge is almost complete, and there is a lot of excitement around it because it's going to cut travel time between Mumbai and Goa. And look at those fascinating images of that longest sea bridge, which is being built at a staggering cost of 18,000 crore rupees, the Mumbai Trans-Harbour Link Road. Now, this is the longest sea bridge in India, which after completion will cater to around 70,000 vehicles. Now, my colleague Sohit Mishra was one of the lucky few to get a sneak peek and an exclusive preview into the longest sea bridge being built there.
Joining me right now is Mr. S.V.R. Srinivas. Thank you so much, sir, for speaking to NDTV. Last time when we spoke, we were inside the sea, but now it's a different feeling when we are over here. And what we can say is that the structure is almost complete. What all can we say has happened till now, and what % of the entire project can be said to be completed?
Thank you, Sohit. I still remember both of us were on the sea, and the Honorable Chief Minister was also with us, and we could not enter this place. Now in the last 4 or 5 months we made good progress and we are right now on MTHL. This is where the vehicles are going to ply, and this is where in fact in a couple of days the Mumbai city, island city gets connected to the mainland. So that is a actually historic thing that's going to happen in next 24 hours to 36 hours. And technically the structure will be complete, right? But the remaining parts, for example, another 5 to 6% of the part will go on. And so that as we promised to open the bridge by this year end. Yeah, so I can tell you that we'll be completing this entire MTHL in another 6 months or so.